All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekakwadash, giving double honor to the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect. Shalom to all the brothers out here laboring in this truth with sincerity. Shalom to the few sisters that watch. It's coming back with another lesson. It's so much going on in the world, man. So much going on in the world. At this point, you know, if the people if the camps that you're listening to are groups that don't or so-called leaders or whoever that don't proclaim to be with camps, whoever you're listening to, if they're not bringing, geopolitics and things that are happening every day and filtering them through the scriptures, they're false prophets, man. You had what we perceive to be a so-called Jake, or not a so-called Jake, so like a so-called white man was perceived to be an Israelite, last night at camp. But, he was saying, keep politics and religion separate. But they go hand in hand. It's all about measuring the times. How do you measure the times? You see what's going on around you. Because you got to understand, destruction, chaos, famine, all these things are part of the scriptures. And all these things will take place through these so-called politicians, governments, But with that being said, let's get into some of these articles. I just pulled up World News and we see just an hour ago, Trump is back at it. Nero is back at it. It says Trump says U.S. will do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not. Hey man, these are proud words. I don't know if it's going to come up or not. But it says Trump said if the U.S. did not act, Russia or China would take control. See, this is all about control. And these people are crazy, man, because this earth was put here, for the Israelites, man, first and foremost. Everything was made, for the sake of the Israelites. And even so, man, this earth belongs to the Most High, man. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And these devils are fighting over it, fighting over control, hoarding resources that's not even theirs, man. This is why the Lord is going to come back and utterly waste this place, throw down all these kingdoms and set up his righteous kingdom, man. Because nothing here is done righteously. It's all about greed and power and death. So it says President Donald Trump on Friday continued to press for U.S. control of Greenland, telling reporters we're going to do something on Greenland whether they like it or not. Because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. Trump said as he hosted oil executives at the White House to discuss investments in Venezuela. So, they went and took Venezuela. But, the great thing about Donald Trump, Nero, he's going to say what's on his mind. You had people like Obama and all these past presidents, man, they try to be politically correct, being vague. But, hey, one thing about Trump, he going to put it all out there, man. He gonna let you know what the plan is, and he ain't gonna hold back. So that's that, that article. But then I saw this too. It says fewer Americans see U.S. as moral leader, and FBI takes over ICE shooting case. So, this is gonna lead to martial law. ICE is taking over. You have local police officers really not even having jurisdiction. Just like this lady that got shot. You would think that this was like some kind of traffic incident. They say she was doing a U-turn in the middle of the road. Now, whether she was protesting or not, I don't know. Somebody said she was dropping a baby off to school. But nevertheless, it didn't, Ward being shot in the face, So these people's liberties are being stripped right in front of their faces. And they're not doing nothing about it, man. Old Esau would fight. But these new Edomites, man, they soft. Yahweh Shem Yahushua hadn't really put the spirit on them to raise up. And Salakia for the rambling. Let's get the book of Malachi, chapter 2. Because this is the thing, man. This is to Israelites, first and foremost, even though everybody got to hear his word. But if you're an Israelite and you're out here listening to these false prophets, hey, man, you're headed for doom. So this is the book of Malachi, chapter 2, and verse 7. It says, "For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the messenger of the Lord Yahweh of hosts." The priest's lips should keep knowledge. You still got guys out here debating the 12 tribes chart. And we like right on the brink of World War III. Waiting on the MOTB, the RFID microchip to be implemented. And we talking about the 12 tribes chart. Which is clearly plain to those that can see it, through prophecy, through the book of Genesis, chapter 49, amongst others, man. It's laid out. You just got to be able to see it. Yahweh Shem Yahushua has to reveal this to you, man. By way of your teachers also, by way of your priests, by way of the knowledge that the priests possess, man. That's the problem. The priest's lips are not, doesn't contain knowledge. Let's see. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel, because soon this is coming, man. Like the bishop was saying last night, man. We don't know how long we're going to be out here, man. The way things are heating up, the way things are taking place, it won't be long. You're going to have troops in the street, man. You really already do. And they're just called ICE. You don't know who these people are, man. People are being hired off the streets and straight savages, man. Bloodthirsty. So let's go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 25. It's like chapter 7 and verse 25. And we're going to get this in the NLT. It says, terror and trembling will overcome my people. Because we headed towards Jacob's trouble. Right in the midst of Jacob's trouble. And you still got these people out here playing around, doing things for entertainment, doing things for money. Speaking of these so-called camp leaders, priests, false prophets. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 7 and verse 25 in the NLT. Terror and trembling will overcome my people. They will look for peace, but will not find it. Calamity will follow calamity. Rumor will follow rumor. They will look in vain for a vision from the prophets. They will receive no teaching from the priests and no counsel from the leaders. And that's called famine of the word. Matter of fact, let's get that too, man. Because that's what that is. Famine of the word during the time of calamity. During the time of Jacob's trouble. Let's see. I'll leave it in the NLT, but then I'll go back to the KJV. This is the book of Amos, chapter 8 and verse 11. It says, "The time is surely coming, said the sovereign Lord, Yahweh, when I will send a famine on the land, not a famine of bread or water, but of hearing the words of the Lord, Yahweh. People will stagger from sea to sea and wander from border to border, searching for the word of the Lord Yahweh, but they will not find it." They will not find it. You know, you people will not find it. It's time to get this truth now. You know, the way things are heating up, you know, the way Trump is displaying his hatred, we don't have long, man. You know, display, and it's all about power. These are power moves, strategic moves, you know, which is ultimately going to lead to World War III, man. You know, whether you people believe it or not. Hey, man, I had a Jake today. You know, I said, oh, man, hey, all the answers are contained within the Bible, man. You know, everything that's going on is written. Hey, Jake told me, F the Bible, straight up. F the Bible. You know, he don't know what he did, man. But, you know, he's headed for judgment. You know, how about Shem Shai? You know, probably gonna judge him, man. You know, because those words are, we see people like Brother Polite that shot the Bible up. You know, he pretty much was saying the same thing, man. But yeah, he verbally said it, man. F the Bible, man, with vitriol. And, you know, it's the wrong time to be doing that, man. You know, 1 minute you on the high horse and the next minute, man, you under the ground. So, you know, Yahweh Shem Yahushua killeth and he maketh alive. You know, so we talking about the power of the universe, man. Not to be played with. So, you know, this is something that the brothers was going into last night. You know, second Esdras and measuring the times. Because the priests, the teachers who you're listening to, if they're not measuring the times, if you're not including politics, if you're not including world events in your teachings, then you're not really prophesying. You know, because the scriptures speak of calamities, mourning, famine, pestilence, war, you know, all these, you know, Jacob's trouble, everything. So this is the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 9 from the top. It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is a very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So you have to watch for the signs. And here it gives a list of signs. It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. And we see all kind of rioting, unrest going around the world. You know, I just Google world news. You know, Russia hypersonic missiles. Let's see, at least 13 killed. You know, Gaza, Maduro. You know, you don't forget the storms. So we got all kind of stuff going on, man. You know, but if you're listening to these false teachers, man, you're not gonna get it. You know, you're not gonna get it. You're gonna be caught off guard. You know, the Lord said he coming as a thief in the night. And it's a lot of blind people out here, man. If you talk to certain people, you know, a lot of these people have no clue of what's to come. So let's go to the book of 2nd Peter, chapter 3 and verse 8. You know, because the brother was going into, you know, how the Lord's time is different from ours. So this is just a time scripture showing you. It says, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. So the Lord's time is not our time, man. You know, it take 1,000 years for us to even come close to a day to the Lord, man. And that's a whole nother level of time, you know, that we can't even grasp. So, you know, that's how you measure. The Lord has put forth signs for you to look for, to understand where we are in the scriptures and in when the end is near, you know. So, this is basically it, man. Because if you don't have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, you're gonna be out here lost. And the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding comes from the priests, the teachers, the prophets. So this is the book of Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 6. It says, "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord Yahweh is his treasure." You know? So you're going to need wisdom, you're going to need knowledge to be able to sustain in the times to come. And all this, comes by way of being taught correctly, and the Lord putting the Spirit on you to be able to receive it. So, hey man, the water, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, for the great men of GMS, from Apostle on down. And hey, we here, man. A lot going on. This was just a quick lesson through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Lord willing, it was edifying. And we want to constantly give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rekakwadash. Shalom.